Go.
Okay, so I met my friend Jordan at the beginning of freshman year of high school. I was 14 years old, and I remember it vividly because Jordan is a very memorable person. And that day, we were walking down the street in my neighborhood, and Jordan, everyone we walked by, Jordan would act like a monkey, like an angry monkey. So he's walking around like a monkey, get on the ground and scream at people, just really freak people out, and everyone was terrified. And I thought it was like the best thing ever. I thought it was hilarious, because here we are 14 years old, and this kid doesn't care what anyone thinks about him. And when you're 14, that's like a superpower. And so, yeah, we became friends, and the antics got more intense. And at some point along the way, we became like a small band of like neighborhood terrorists. and so I remember on 4th of July, Jordan would get a big box of mortars. And if you don't know what mortars are, they're grenades. And you put them in a tube, and you shoot them 100 feet into the air, and they explode. Except the first thing Jordan always did was he threw away the tube. So we'd run around the neighborhood with these grenades, and commit acts of neighborhood terrorism. And so, yeah, that was growing up. And then by senior year of high school, Jordan had gotten kicked out of his Catholic private school. He had been in the office with his principal, and he had snatched his phone out of her hands and threw it on the ground because he had messages on it that probably would have gotten half the grade expelled. So he got kicked out for obstruction of justice, and he came to our high school, our public high school. And by that point, we weren't just this small band of neighborhood terrorists. We were like the neighborhood Taliban. And at this point, we had cars, so it was that much worse. So when we got out of school, we'd all race our cars to this abandoned parking lot, and we'd drift our cars, and all the neighbors would yell at us, and then they blocked that parking lot off, so we had to find another parking lot and drift our cars there. And that's what we did all day. We drifted our cars, and we did drugs, and we just like got in as much trouble as we could get in. And we had this saying, we'd always say, never die. Like whenever something horrible would happen and everyone would get away without like getting in trouble or hurt, just be like, never die, never gonna die. And it's this whole thing, like the only acknowledgement we had of how like ridiculous it was what we were doing, like the only reason something bad hadn't happened was because of luck. And then this, luck runs out. And so, one night my friend Paul was drinking on OxyContin, and he drank too much, and his heart didn't stop. He stopped breathing. I had to go to the hospital and was in like intensive care. And then Jordan, one night Jordan got pissed drunk and crashed his Miata in a ditch, and then he bought another Miata and got pissed drunk and crashed it into a pole. And so, yeah, by the end of senior year, like people, we were in bad shape. And then Paul and Jordan decided to go on this big Euro trip. So they went off to Europe, they went to Amsterdam, they went to France, and then they came home 2 weeks early. And that was weird. We were like, Paul, why'd you guys go home early? And he told us it was because Jordan had been trying to kill himself the whole trip. And so, when they weren't like on some coked out alcohol-fueled binge, Paul was trying to stop him from killing himself. And it got so bad that in France, they got in this fight, and Paul just pinned Jordan on the ground and just started beating the shit out of him, like trying to beat literal sense into Jordan. Which I don't know if that's a medically, I don't know if that's been proved effective, but probably assault's not a great way to stop your friend from suicide. But yeah, when Jordan got back, he was not the same. He was paranoid. He was like delusional. We'd be in a car, and someone would play a song, and Jordan would accuse someone of playing it on purpose. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, stop trying to get in my head. He started accusing everyone of trying to have sex with his girlfriend. Yeah, it got really rough. And then so at one night he told his mom that he was going to kill himself, and she sent him to a psych ward for a week. And he came back, and we decided to all go over to his house and hang out with him. And when we got there, him and his dad were pissed drunk. This was the first day back from the psych ward, and they were, drunk. And he was super mad at his dad, and he was asking his dad to give him his car keys, and his dad was laughing in his face, and he was saying, he was crying, and that was scary because I'd never seen Jordan cry before. And then Jordan came downstairs, and he says, I need to go, I need to get out of here, I need to leave. And so Jordan runs out the back, and Paul runs after him, and we call the cops because we're all scared. And they get about halfway to this bridge by Jordan's house when Paul finally tackles Jordan and has him in a chokehold, but it's also a hug. He's hugging Jordan. And Jordan is sobbing, and he's saying, like, they could hear police sirens in the distance. Jordan's saying, please don't let them take me. Like, I can't go back, I can't go back. And so, Paul is 18, he doesn't know what to do, so he hides Jordan, and they go in an alleyway. And then, shortly after this, we all, cut ties with Jordan. We stopped hanging out with him. We stopped texting into the group chat, and that was hard for me because it was, here's our friend, and we've decided, he's at his lowest point. He's sick and he's hurting, and we've decided to, we're his only friends, and we've decided to abandon him. And that's hard. And at the same time, here's this kid who's drug addicted and violent and scary, and he's a nightmare to be around. And how do you support someone who is a nightmare to be around and you can't be in the same room with? So we didn't support him, and Jordan stayed in Seattle, and we all went off to college, and that was that. And then the last time I saw Jordan was last summer. I was driving through our neighborhood, and I was at a red light, and I look in my mirror, and there's Jordan behind me, and he's just smiling at me. And my heart starts thumping in my chest, and I'm terrified, totally freaked out. And I take a left, and he kept going straight.